my 3 favorite exercises for gaining speed and accuracy. Let's get right into it. The first one is focusing on our left hand. We're gonna do our normal chromatic exercise, right? Like a lot of you guys are already doing, but you're not allowed to move your finger to the next string until it's ready. That means all 4 of your fingers are down almost the whole time. So we got this, 1, 2, 3, 4, leave your fingers down, move just when they're needed. This has so many benefits to it, this exercise. Now, the cool thing is, it's not something that you really need to focus on other than the exercise. And what I mean by that is that muscle memory is just gonna help keep your fingers down. Remember, we wanna cut down on the range of motion and the musculature. That's what all 3 of these exercises are going to do. So if we're doing too much musculature, we're gonna tense up. Too much range of motion, we're gonna take too much time. We're not gonna gain that speed and gain that accuracy. So this is gonna cut down on the range of motion, keeping your fingers as close as possible. If you guys type in Guinness Book of World Records, fastest guitar player, you'll see some of these guys, and it just looks like they're doing this up and down the neck. You don't see their fingers popping up at all. That's what we really want to focus on. Now, there's a few other dimensions to this exercise that I really love. To get this out of the way, right? You'll get a lot of this at first, right? Your pinky and your 3rd finger might be touching the string below. So it's gonna help set a more proper hand position. Now, just like you guys may have seen in the beginning of the video, or if I just kind of play now, right, my hand position is not perfect, okay? I do not play like this, I do not play in perfect positioning, but this is going to help train your hand to get up and over, and at least, it's actually you're gonna overcompensate a little bit, which is gonna help. Same thing, it's just gonna be a little bit of muscle memory, not something you super have to focus on while you're playing. So that is number 1. Number 2, when you're doing this exercise, to keep your fingers down, you're like really gonna wanna squeeze, and you won't have to. So to do this, I want you guys to really think about relaxing as much as you can, right? Relaxing this hand. Now, what helps is relaxing this hand and playing lighter, which is great because that is going to help the next exercise with our right hand. Now, the goal too is, if I'm playing this, if I want to go fast, you can see I'm moving a lot more. I have a bit more range of motion if I don't really need to go fast, right? But to get that speed, I'm gonna have to really cut down that motion. So this is just going to be a focus exercise. When you guys are playing, doing your alternate picking, we do the same exercise. You don't really need to focus on leaving your hand down, right? Because that just takes a little bit too much time. So now you can switch regular chromatic exercise, and all I really want you to do is focus on how much you're moving from the string. You should try to keep that as low, the least amount of motion as possible. Now turn your pick in just a little bit, and you can let the pick roll off, which turns into this exercise where you just roll that edge of the pick over the string, not letting it go at all. This is gonna help control the tiniest muscles. It's the weirdest exercise, all right? And I know that, and I know it's strange, but that's gonna be the start of it, right? If you guys are having too much time, that'll just control, and then you can see how fast you go until you start like lifting up and actually playing. Then look down and really focus on how much of the pick is digging into the string. You don't need to dig in that much. You can just let that pick ride and glide right over the string. You put together those 2 exercises now, all right? So you're just going over without playing, right? Keeping it close, and then now you're just gonna let the pick glide over, and that's going to help cut down that range of motion and cut down the musculature because you have to do this lightly. If I'm playing this, right, to get some of that sound, I can dig into the strings. If I wanna do, I'm not digging into the strings. Now, if I'm just gliding over the string, the faster I'm going, the more velocity I have, so the volume is going to pick up, okay? So it's not something that you need to say like, oh man, like I don't wanna play that quietly as I'm going faster. It will pick up in volume. And then you guys can adjust that little tiny bit of how much the pick is going in, or even how much you're squeezing the pick. That's going to also help with some of the volume control, So those are those exercises for the right hand. There's a few in there. You can rewind and kind of see what to do and how to focus on it. I have a lot of students that I'll just tell them, just sit there and do this. I'll usually have them play around the 7th or the 9th fret. And maybe on the top 3 strings too, because those thicker strings are a little bit easier. It has a little bit more of a curvature because they're thicker. And then if you're up here, it actually tightens the tension in the string, rather this is like a little bit loose if you play it open. So that also helps kind of training, just barely letting that pick glide over. All right, and then really focus on not letting any muscle from here up tense up at all. And how you do that also is by palm muting. I always use palm muting as an anchor. I tend to anchor with these 2 fingers. There's gonna be a lot of guitar players out there that tell me that that's bad technique, but it does work. I do play that fast, like Spanish style a lot at gigs, so it does work for me, and my gigs are exceptionally long for that, like 3 hours of playing. So to be able to do that, my technique has to be some sort of correct, you know? So it is what works for me, guys. You will, as you're doing some of these exercises, find out what works best for you. Now the last one, and this is maybe the trickiest one, but because we gotta cut the tension down with our right hand, what we don't want to do is be mixing it up. What I mean by that is keeping a very light and calm picking the whole time. What tends to happen with this exercise is we're jumping into it and our picking is not consistent. Also, to be able to jump all around the neck, this is going to be super helpful for that. So we're going to take our chromatic 1, 2, 3, 4. And now we're gonna really focus on our right hand picking, but we're gonna do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, next string. Now our main goal for this, which is pretty difficult, is to not cut where our pinky is. So what I mean by that is if I were to slow this down, not doing, so it's jumping into it, right? You're anticipating, so you're picking harder for that last one, and you're cutting it off to allow this quick motion, all right? You want that to be as smooth as possible, and that is going to help you get around the neck. So when you're doing this exercise, that's keeping your fingers nice and close, and really gaining that musculature to hold down close without squeezing. You know what I mean? You're staying close but without squeezing, because we're doing it with very, very light picking and less tension. That combined with being able to move up and down the neck is going to get your left hand flying everywhere. Now, I said 3 exercises. I'm gonna throw a 4th one in there because this is gonna be the same idea. If I'm doing this exercise and I'm jumping up and down, what is really difficult and one of my biggest weaknesses is jumping strings. What I mean by that is not just doing, right, going from one string to the next, but moving around a little bit. So this same chromatic exercise, this is gonna be a little bit, it's gonna be both hands kind of coordinating, but it's mostly difficult for me, my right hand is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then jump to the bottom string, 5th string, 2nd string, 4th string, 3rd string. All right, it's very difficult to make those jumps. Same idea, make them nice and smooth picking and not cutting off that last note, right? And one real cool thing to focus on is that if I were to kind of play this a little slower, is 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're kind of already getting set up for that bottom string, right? That's just cutting down the motion and moving at the most optimal time. So these exercises have so much benefit. I do them all the time, not saying that I'm like some amazing guitar player, but I do them all the time. So this goes on into more advanced lessons as well as people that are just starting. So these are the things to focus on. So I hope you guys like this lesson, and I will see you guys soon.